Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Glad to have you back all here today at the IDSA Summit Day 2 in our open source stream. And I can tell you, I'm really excited today about this stream. I mean, I've been in IDSA for roughly 5 years right now, and it started from an idea. Then we came up with a concept, and people always ask me, so how can I build it? And people started building it. And people started to understand how to build IDS connectors. And now we really formed a group of developers that are building great open source solutions. So coming really from an idea to a concept and now starting an open source endeavor to really provide industrial solutions, industrial proven solution, enterprise ready solutions for IDS. That's great. And I'm so happy that it's not only one solution that we have at hand today, it's more than one solution that we have at hand today, and we can only present two today. Really glad about this, and IDSA really embraces and supports all these open source endeavors to have strong reference components, strong components that can be used all over the different industries, but also embracing a variety of different components that support different use cases. So in this session, my dear colleague Anil will present the general idea, the general strategy of IDSA, how we do support and embrace open source software developments. And then afterwards, I'm very glad to have two very important projects. One Eclipse project, building an IDS connector based on the Dataspace connector, and then the chosen fireware connector, the true connector from engineering. But first of all, I will give the word to you, Anil, to present a little bit about what we are doing in the IDSA head office to support all of you building open source solutions.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sebastian, for the great introduction. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all participants that are listening to us today from all around the world. So I would like to start talking about what we are doing at the moment and how we do it, and what is IDSA's role in that, and what are the next steps, and of course, the question that you are all curious about, how you can be part of it. So first, as you know, we started to go open and to increase the collaboration among the community members, and it's really great to see that it's increasing the quality of the IDSA components and through collaboration. And there is a big implementation going on in the open source community, and so OS landscape not only enhances the implementation quality, but also it's providing an amazing place to learn from one another. So there are a lot of development effort going on, and it's great to see how people are learning from one another. And the strategic goals for that is to have the IDS standard on data sovereignty is distributed and used everywhere where data sovereignty is applied. And we aim to enable and facilitate the usage of IDS standards, and on the other hand, design IDS standard in a usable way, and of course in a reusable way. So it's really important to ensure the transparency among the community members and listen to the requirements of the end users as well as developers. So what is IDSA's role in open source? So first, to talk about the artifacts and projects that we have in the OS landscape, we group them as current IDSA projects in one hand, and incubating IDSA projects like Testbed and Test Suite that was mentioned by my colleagues in the former sessions. And we have IDS information model and IDFG in current IDSA projects. And of course, there are a lot of community projects running around by Fraunhofer. And of course, we are looking to involve and include more projects. So the responsibilities of IDSA in here is to stay as the authority to define what is part of the standard and what is not. And so the results that I'm sharing with you today are the discussion points and topics and results from the IDSA task force, open source task force, sorry. And so, as you know, we have the repositories in GitHub, like IDFG and IDFTT, that stands for think tank. And so our responsibilities can be grouped in 3 main streams. So the creation and updating and maintaining of the standards and provide guidelines for the developer communities. And on the other hand, we have the management responsibility of the general repositories, like IDS Global and IDS Think Tank. And our role is to redirect the users and visitors to the relevant information. And on the other hand, we have, we really want to engage with the community and increase the engagement among community members. So we are also looking forward to do some really good stuff for the community and to increase collaboration among all members. So, as it's seen in the life cycle graph, the IDSA's role is to release the reference architecture model, as you know, and also the criteria for the certification processes. And so, as you know, the certification is defined by the specifications in the reference architecture. But it's also very important to have this portfolio of building blocks in the open source landscape, so that we can have some feedback from the developers, as well as requests for changes that will really provide an important input for the reference architecture model, as well as certification criteria. So here it's depicted in more detail, and this graph, as you know, has been shared by my colleagues in the previous sessions. And so this is how it relates with the IDSA Technical Steering Committee and working groups and maintainers of the open source projects. So what are the next steps in relation with the decisions and the discussions in the open source task force? So as you know, in the landscape, we have this IDSA components grouped as base services and essential services on the other hand, and Dataspace connector and trusted connector, and also the group, the elements as frameworks and other resources, like the information model and communication protocol and enterprise integration connector, etc. And these are, so not a finalized one, but the existing components in the landscape, existing implementations from the members of the community. And so we have various implementations of IDS components in the open source landscape. But on the other hand, one discussion that's going on is about whether concentrating the efforts, for example, let's say 5 companies are developing connectors. So should we concentrate them into one stream, or shall we have as many as possible? So now the approach, I can say, is that to have as less as possible, as many as necessary. And our next steps at the moment consists of this standard setting, like so the head office will be providing the strategic roadmap and the working groups and definition of the building blocks, and compatibility check and attestation. And in the near future, we will have the building block governance. So a governance strategy and a structure is on at the moment, and to carry the testbed operations here. In the potential development paths, we can say we are looking forward to have best practice for developer certificate of origin, and provide project support when necessary, and establish a project management infrastructure. So in our short-term targets, we are looking forward to define the management processes and the governance structure in the near future, and to have legal aspects defined, so which open source licenses that we can use within the landscape, and especially for the new projects that are looking forward to join, and the project assessment, so the graduation scheme that I will present in the next slide, and to have the testbed project for the lifecycle management of the components, and on the other hand, as a parallel stream, the GitHub maintainers group works on the best practices for projects hosted on IDSA GitHub organization. So for the graduation scheme, this is like we are using the CNCF Cloud Network Computing Foundation scheme, and we are building something on that. And so we are looking forward to have levels like sandbox, incubating, and graduation. So this is just to have a low barrier at the beginning for the projects that want to join IDSA open source landscape, and then have a significant barrier towards the second step, where we are looking forward to have a due diligence process and evaluation for the projects. So we try to be as meritocratic as possible, and this is the reason why we are looking forward for this graduation scheme and criteria along it. And finally, how to be part of IDSA open source. So you can check the GitHub repositories, and you can fill in the participation request form, which is a link here. And then we recommend you to check the basic documentation of each repository, like the license, code of conduct, contribution guidelines, and set of labels for issues. And then contact the maintainers of the repository you are interested in. So thank you very much, and looking forward.
Thank you so much, Anil. That was impressive and really showing that we are on the way. We are not there yet, but we are on the way. And yeah, be part of this, support us. And as open source is, it's not only about using, it's also about contributing. And feel free to be part of this great journey. One team that is part of this great journey will present now the Eclipse Dataspace project. And this is really a great endeavor. I'm very glad that we will have Julia Pampus from Fraunhofer ISST and Jim Marino from Microsoft here on the stage. They will present, and I hope Moritz Keppler from Daimler will also join in, let's see. So they will present the Eclipse Dataspaces connector. And this is a great endeavor. It started at Fraunhofer's as research and bringing research to the industry. And hi, Moritz, there is an industry. They are using it. They want to be part of it. They want to contribute, and now they are building it together, building really a team for a Dataspace connector to have this tiny little plant, make it grow, and make it really usable and enterprise grade. So I know a little bit about what you're doing, guys, but please present this to all of us. The stage is yours. I'm really happy to have you here with us. Floor is yours, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the good introduction. Hope my slides are visible now. And
yes.
Perfect. So yeah, welcome everyone. My name is Julia Pampus, and I am leading through this presentation today, and I will be supported by Moritz and Jim. So we want to introduce or to present our Eclipse Dataspace Connector project, and I will give a short introduction. So as you may all know, is that the IDS connector is the main, so the core of the IDS, and it's the central technological building block, and is a software component that allows participants to exchange data and share and process digital content. And it technically ensures that the data sovereignty of the data owner is provided along the whole data value chain. And we know that there are a lot of different implementations now. So why is there another connector implementation now? You may want to ask yourself. So the Dataspace and the Eclipse Dataspace Connector is an open source project. So we are, as Anil already presented, so we are trying to build a project that every interested party can participate. And we will not create a completely new implementation, but we will be based on the Dataspace Connector and the Data Appliance GX implementation that I will come back to at a later slide. And we try to join knowledge from different people and different companies and from different areas either research or industry. And yeah, we want to merge this knowledge and yeah, create a common code base and yeah, build a good basis to work on together to fit all use cases. And yes, so what are our goals? So we want to provide an architecture and a project for many interested parties to collaborate on, as I already said. And we want to build a platform that gives you the opportunity to, yeah, test out new ideas, to implement ideas, and to use the project in various use cases. And in the context of this, we try to evolve IDS and Gaia X, and yeah, aim to build a platform that bridges various ecosystems using IDS or not. So to fit really a large pool of use cases and scenarios. I don't know, Moritz, Jim, do you want to add anything?
Nothing to add from my side.
No, I think that's good, Julia.
Perfect. So I will just get to the next slide. So to shortly introduce our current team. So this are the this is a committer group that is currently was formed, and that is exchanging about yeah, organizational stuff and yeah, the content or the implementation itself. So as you see, we are yeah, there are organizations and companies from different domains, and for example, we have here us as Fraunhofer from the Fraunhofer side. So Markus Spiekermann is the project lead, and yeah, me, I am also part of the committer group. And then we have AWS, BMW, Daimler, SAP, Telecom, Microsoft, and ZF. So a lot of different companies and trying to join our knowledge and experience.
And this is just a set of the initial committers. So one of the messages of the slide is you are missing. So join us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then we just wanted to give you a quick look into why we choose to be part of the Eclipse Foundation. So the Eclipse Foundation offers a good infrastructure for open source and provides a defined governance and collaboration model, and also handles legal aspects. And when you look at the history of projects, they have projects with a really high code quality. And so we just want to be, yeah, a part of it, the project developed there. And on top of that, it's European based, but it's open for everyone. So yeah, so to the whole world. So everyone can participate if he or she would like to. And this makes it really easy for different parties to join. So as Moritz already said, you're really very welcome to join us and yeah, be part of the future developments. So as I already said, we are trying to build up on 2 already existing implementations. First of all, we have the Dataspace connector as one of the most feature complete implementations in the IDS currently. And as you may already know, it is used in various use cases at the moment, and it implements the basic IDS patterns. So this is yeah, the software component that will support with IDS data exchange patterns, and so that the Eclipse Dataspace connector just builds on the knowledge we already built up during implementing the Dataspace connector. And then on the other side, we have the Data Appliance GX that will provide core infrastructure capabilities. It comes, so the Data Appliance GX comes from Microsoft and is a platform for modularity, extensibility, and reliability. And it will give us a good base for supporting new use cases, for example, talking about streaming and big data. And so we take the best of both components and merge this as an initial commit or initial contribution for this Eclipse Dataspace Connector project, and improve this in further developments. So talking about the Eclipse Dataspace Connector, so this project will be a connector framework that we are aiming to, on an architectural level, build really modular and fully extensible. So you may add any technology you like. So we try to keep this open to fit all use cases you want to use the Eclipse Dataspace Connector in. The framework should be asynchronously and highly available, and we are concentrating on separating the control and the data planes and allowing to use many different transfer technologies, so that, as I already said, that it's really modular and you can just use the technologies you are already using or you want to use, and you can that we are already providing extensions for this, but you may also create extensions yourself, and this is just integrating in the whole framework, so it gets it just fits in the use case. And but at the same time, as we want to keep this modular and fully extensible, we the core of the implementation is really lightweight, so you can really choose yourself if you want to deploy the connector in large clusters in a cloud environment, or if you just want to use it on small IoT devices. So we just can say again, we are forcing to make it possible to use this connector in really various use cases. And with the support of multiple protocols, we try to ensure that bridging data spaces is possible with the connector, so it's not focused on one kind of data space using one specific protocol or ontology or stuff like that. But we are providing such a bridging implementation. And with the focus on data sovereignty, we want to provide cloud-aware policy enforcement, just to ensure or technically enforce trust along the whole data processing. Anything to add from your side, Moritz or Jim?
Nothing to add. I just can underline once again, it's not about providing one artifact one artifact, but providing a way that you can build your connector, combine the modules, the extensions you need that fit your needs to an individual connector, special to your requirements.
Great. And I just had, there was a question there, was what platforms can this connector work with? And the idea, just to kind of underline, it's fully extensible and modular, so it's cloud platform agnostic. It'll, it's designed to work on any cloud platform, any on-premise, environments, and because it's modular, you can basically plug in extensions that take advantage of the underlying environment that you're running in. So if you're running on a particular cloud, you could write an extension that leverage some of the services that cloud offered, or even on-premise with back-end systems and things like that.
Thank you. Then just to get to the last slide. So what is our current status? We are an official Eclipse project for 1 week now, and currently we are trying to get familiar to all code bases and merge concept and implementation. So yeah, we are talking about, for example, how can architecture be designed and stuff like that. And in the context of this, we are also dealing with use cases in the context of Catena X and DRM. But just wanted to mention that we are definitely not limited to these projects. So we are actually now working with them, but we are open for any other projects, and yeah, want to support these as well. And then as a next step, we of course want to expand the community. So once again, you are very welcome to have a look at this project, to yeah, have a look at the website, and or subscribe to the mailing list and become a part of our group and community to implement and develop this connector. And yes, then I would just, if no one has anything to add, I would just thank you for your attention, and yeah, join us.
Thank you.
Yeah, Moritz, Jim, James. Oh, thank you so much. I think that's impressive, and I would like to underline Moritz's statement. You're missing. So this is really a starting point, and congratulations to all of you. So you're an official Eclipse project right now. Kudos from my side. That's really great. I'm so excited, and I hope that a lot of contributors will join you, and that you will come up with really something really, really great. Looking forward to that. Thank you so much. I expect you to stay a little bit. Maybe some other questions will come up in the chat, and we will later on meet again to have a small chat, I think, between the lunch break. Thank you for the time being. Next connector to be presented would be the FiWare implementation. So FiWare, most of you should know FiWare by now, as Ulrich Ahle presented several times also during this summit. FiWare really a huge European endeavor to come up with a data economy, with data sharing and data exchange and making use of data. And I'm so glad to see you, Angelo, that Angelo is with us today, and I think Gabriele will also join us. So Team Engineering has won the battle around the FiWare connector. The true connector is the chosen one for the FiWare ecosystem. And I don't want to take the words from you, so the floor is yours. Please tell us a little bit about the true connector from engineering for the FiWare ecosystem.
Yeah, thanks to you, Sebastian. Hello, everyone. This is Angelo Marguglio. I'm the head of the Smart Industry and Agri-Food unit within the R&D lab of engineering, and Gabriele is one of the senior research and technical manager within this lab. And we are going to present a few inputs on our approach to this, to the overall development in the open source communities as FiWare, but also as Eclipse has been just mentioned. And we will deep more in detail on the connector per se, and I will explain somehow the background of this technology. So let me shortly introduce engineering. I mean, I don't want to pick all these numbers, but just to give you for who is not aware of who is Engineering Informatica is one of the biggest IT system integrator in Italy and in Europe, but also worldwide. I mean, we are also premises all over the world. We are mainly software makers. So this is why we are really pushing the adoption development. We are trying to contribute also within the IDSA ecosystem with our developments, with our experience, with our skills, with our technologies. And to this end, please, next, we are also trying to link somehow, as mentioned, which are the real challenge of adopting, also for a large company like engineering, the mindset of open source development and also adoption. As you know, open source software are somehow one of the enablers also of new business models. So this is why several companies, several also, I would say, software vendors that has been producing closed software for a while are now also engaging in open source community, in open source development, and the Eclipse connector is another example of how now several organizations is really aimed to join forces to build trusted and open artifacts and software that can really bring value for the final adopters. And then on top of them, for sure, still continues to define new business model to adopt this technology, this software, and specifically also the data that can be, I would say, converted through these components. Specifically, when we talk about connectors that indeed are a gateway that has to enable this trusted exchange in our trusted ecosystem. Next, please. As mentioned, engineering is a large company, and we are really active in the R&D and I landscape in Europe, and we try to follow this some sort of synergies roadmap. So we start from identifying challenges within, for instance, the BDVA or DIRO ecosystem. We obviously are members of the international Dataspace, and we are part of the Italian hub, and where we have to deal with the standard interoperability specification. Then we are within the funding members of Fiverr. This is why also we are pushing this implementation of the True Connector as the Fiverr connector for delivering Fiverr-based approaches to develop data spaces. We are also a member of Gaia X to make them operational, to them, I would say, be able to be operated in trusted infrastructure for our clients. And we also have established a recent initiative called Digital Factory Alliance, also to seek new market opportunities, try to convey all this trustworthiness between the needs toward the market. So our approach also in these synergies, in this organization, is not to build or to push our technology, but to build them together. So this is why we are adopting for a while several contributions to several open source projects within Eclipse, within OV2 and others. And among them, as mentioned, also the True Connector that now Gabriele is going to present to you in detail. Finally, I mean, I would say this is still some sort of motivation why we need, if it is still, I would say, needed, but I mean that most of you already are aware that why we need open source implementation that can tackle these three levels. So starting from data platform, we have a lot of data platform. We have our own data platform as engineering. We have to support that economy, that sharing, and this is why also the connector is, I would say, one of the component ingredients to develop this concept. And now, actually, as has been mentioned by yesterday a lot, obviously, we are, I would say, aware of the synergies that at the European, but also worldwide level, we are creating to ease the interoperability between data spaces. So all of these three components, data platform, data sets, data sharing connector, and so on and so forth, as really, I would say, the basic building blocks that has to be used and to assure the trustworthiness and interoperability among all of them. And again, an open source approach and community is what is really needed to ease this adoption. And this is why also within Fiverr, we are pushing this working group on data space in order to provide concrete implementation. And this is why somehow in the release 8 that has been recently announced in June, Fiverr community is already pushing some concrete implementation. And among them, one of the building blocks, again, is the True Connector that we are going to present. I will let you also in the chat the links to the GitHub project where you can also find further information, but again, it will be also in the final links and slide of Gabriele. But now I will stop here since probably we've taken more than expected, and I will hand over to Gabriele. Thanks, Gabriele.
Okay, thank you, Angelo, for the introduction. This session is dedicated to the True Connector. True stands for Trusted Engineering. It is an open source implementation of an IDS connector, fits the base security profile of IDS, and basically it's a Java application based on Apache Camel and Spring Boot for managing message routes and endpoints. It is aligned to the last IDS info model, the major release, the 4.0, and the connector was already tested during the integration camp events mentioned before by Begonia and the SQS premises with the existing solutions like the one from GEC and the one coming from the Boost 4.0 project. We are working in order to extend the integration table with the recent open source implementations and improving the integration capabilities of the component. The connector has been designed following in a strict way what the IDS reference architecture model describes in terms of connector architecture. It means that the True Connector is provided in bundle, and you can find basically two main components. The execution core container in charge to the physical data exchange and the interaction with the IDS services, that is, by the way, a foreground of the Market 4.0 project, and one or more data apps in charge to the data processing and to integrate your external systems, your domains. So in the two connector, you can find a basic data app that you can use for starting. So using it, you don't need to take care about the internal communication, but you have just to put your logic in order to integrate your legacy systems and your domains. So main features of the connector is open source, released under AGPL version 3 license, is multi-data format and multi-protocol. It means that you can, the two connector is able to exchange data represented by the multi-part mix, multi-part form, or HTTP header, and also is able to exchange data using several protocols like HTTP, HTTPS, WebSocket over HTTPS, and IDSCP version 2. It is totally configurable. It means that during the config time, you can decide the right combination, the proper combination for you for satisfying your needs. Is extendable, since as explained before, there is a strict separation between internal components, and it is integrable because you can, if you need to interact with an existing solution, a different connector, you can try to the right combination, as I mentioned before, and also the two connector is integrable with several IDS services, as we will see in a later slide. From a data flow perspective, we can simplify the two connector as composed by two main routes, a sender route and a receiver route. So in this picture, you can see two instances of the two connector, and the blue boxes represent the execution core containers that are interacting with the related data app, IDS data app. So what the two connector does? Basically, perform a validation, a semantic validation. So it checks if the message is an IDS message and well-formed, then interact with the identity provider, in particular with a DAP server, in order to add a token on one side and validate the token on the other side. It's responsible for the physical data exchange between connectors and interact with the clearinghouse in order to register transactions on both sides. Last but not least, on the sender route, you can see the usage control enforcement. It means that we will be able to consume data only if we pass, let's say, the control check by the usage control framework. And by the way, the two connector integrates the metadata framework from Fraunhofer IC. This is the architecture of the connector. As I said before, strict separation between execution core container and data app. Of course, you can use more than and deploy more than one data app. And the usage control app is the one that I mentioned before that is responsible for the usage control enforcement, and currently it integrates the metadata framework from Fraunhofer. You can see an interaction with the clearinghouse. In particular, the clearinghouse that we support is the one that we as engineering have implemented in the context of the Market 4.0 project for registering transactions. And one thing that I want to stress on this slide is the configurability of the connector, because you can define in the config time the way you want to exchange data. I mean, the B endpoint, the public endpoint that I depicted here, that can be configured in order to receive data over HTTP, HTTPS, WebSocket over HTTPS, and IDSCP version 2. Even the internal communication is configurable. It means that the A and F point that I depicted here can be configured properly in order to use HTTP and HTTPS or WebSocket. Why? It was a strict requirement that we have received from the field, from real scenarios, in particular in the Market 4.0 project. From the industrial scenarios, there was the need to exchange large files. So configuring the connector through the WebSocket also for the internal communication is more efficient. Let me to recap the main features. I mean, I already discussed and shared with you the supported data formats and protocols in the clearinghouse. I want to spend a few words regarding the supported brokers. The true connector is able to exchange data with the metadata broker from Fraunhofer EIS, but also with the Intersoft broker, another outcome of the Market 4.0 project. And we are able to support several identity providers, in particular Fraunhofer ISEC version 1, version 2, on Orbiter. So you can choose the right one, the proper identity provider during the config time. So another important result that we have achieved a few weeks ago is that the True Connector now is part of the Fiber catalog. It means that you can find it as incubated generic enabler in the last Fiber release, the 8.0. Basically because through the basic data app, you can add your customization and integrate external systems as before. But what we want to do in order to improve and to support all Fiber scenarios in a plug-and-play way, we are designing a Fiber data app that will be included in the Fiber True Connector, let's say the Fiber version of the True Connector, that will allow to integrate in a plug-and-play way existing Fiber ecosystems. In the picture, the context consumer on the left and the context provider on the right, implementing the HSI LD API. In this way, you don't need to implement anything, but we have just to configure the connector in order to be ready for implementing the data sovereignty to integrate an IDS ecosystem to be part of a data space between two existing Fiber ecosystems. This is disruptive. And another result that we want to share with you today is the scenario that we have implemented during in the context of the Launch Coalition. In particular, this is a use case coming from the aeronautics sector, a military sector, that we have implemented and designed in collaboration with Avio Aereo. In particular, the need was to exchange in a trusted way, implementing the data sovereignty, the usage control data coming from two different countries, Poland and Czech Republic, and to consume it through the digital enabler in Italy. The digital enabler is a suite powered by engineering for implementing end-to-end solutions. So what we did in order to support that scenario, basically we have started from the basic data app and we have customized it on the provider side to fetch data from the related data lakes. And in particular, we're talking about the CSV files bigger than 10 megabytes, more or less 15 megabytes. And on the consumer side, we have customized the data app in order to process received messages, received data, the CSVs, and to push those data into the CCAN Open Data Portal. In this way, we have implemented the integration with the digital enabler. And just for curiosity, in order to support in an efficient way this scenario, we have deployed the True Connector using the WebSocket. In relation to the roadmap, we plan to complete some, let's say, work in progress tasks like the full contract negotiation support. Also, we are working on the API for managing resources. We have started the certification process. We are, let's say, performing the self-assessment in order to receive the IDS ready and to achieve the IDS ready label. And we want to complete and reach the full status membership in Fiber, and we can do that after the implementation of the Fiber data app I mentioned before. For the last quarter of the year, we plan to integrate currently unsupported IDS component like the Paris, like the App Store, and new usage control capabilities. This is another important result that I want to, or at least work in progress that I want to share with you today. Coming from the Platoon project, where engineering in collaboration with Tecnalia are working together in order to define a new usage control app, totally compliant with the True Connector, because the True Connector is the background technology for the project, that will include a new usage control framework, totally open source, and also the K framework powered by engineering for processing personal data. I put here, as Angelo mentioned before, the links. At this moment, you can find the Dockerized version and the source code of the subcomponents under the engineering, research, and development repository on GitHub, but soon we will share the project also in the IDSA repository on GitHub. I put here our contacts. Feel free to contact us for any further information, clarification, or request for collaborations. We are open. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriele. Thank you, Angelo. That was impressive, really. And I must admit, I already saw most parts of your presentation already in the working group meetings, but it's still impressive. And thank you for sharing these insights and the components with all of us. Thank you so much. We had two, let me say, flagship connectors presented today in this session. But we have more. So take a look at the IDSA GitHub repository. Today you can find a lot of cool projects in there. For example, a DAPS service, a metadata broker, OpenCore. This is available today for your use, and we are building up. So we will collect more components there as soon as possible to have a variety of components, but of course to bring them all together to make them really work together. So therefore we have a dedicated repository that I would like to put a spotlight on for the deployment examples. So if you managed to set up one of those cool components up, share your configuration with us and just contribute it there, for example. Be part of this great endeavor. So I think we had a lot of questions already during the presentations in the chat, and there are a lot of things ongoing. Maybe when the presenters could join again for a minute or two with screen and audio, then we can have a small discussion afterwards. And folks, feel free to answer your questions while we are waiting for everyone to show up again. We have more questions. I mean, the most important ones have already been asked, I think. Where can I find it and how can I contribute? Angelo, maybe you can start when you're the first one. Can I contribute to the True Connector, and if how?
Yeah, absolutely. Like all fiber components, they have a contribution license agreement and a specific procedure to join the community and to contribute to the code. So for sure, we are already ready. I mean, this project has already been adopted in several initiatives and several organizations. So it's quite easy to adopt and test, and integrate, and provide any kind of request. On the other side, regarding the real contribution, I mean, for the moment is mainly done within the fiber community, but as mentioned, this is quite open. So again, feel free to contact us, and it will be quite easy also to contribute actively to one more point. As already has been mentioned by Gabriele, the connector is made by several components. So the execution core component probably is where it's more difficult, I would say, not to contribute, but is already, I would say, a roadmap of development. While where you can really bring an added value is defining and developing several data hub or users control hub. It's really what you have to customize in your own business process. So it's also where you can value to the community approach on the development of the connector per se. So it's not only the execution or establishing the connection, but it's really how to adopt and how to convey the different formats and protocols. And here we are a bunch of projects where we are developing these components, but again, we're really flexible and open for this kind of collaboration as well.
Great. So did Moritz and Julia, did they also join us already on the stage? At least I cannot see them yet. So that's far more easier when you have a physical stage. So Moritz, as you popped up next, oh, Jim is also there. So maybe a question to the two of you, that is at least because no one is asking questions in the chat. So you are my victims and I can ask my questions. The Eclipse project and Gaia X, will it work together, and if, how and when?
So absolutely, that's, obviously one of our goals is to, make sure that we have strong alignment with Gaia X as well. So, definitely that's kind of from day one, that's what we're planning. So as Gaia X, evolves out, we'll be tracking that closely. And I also think it's important, we want to really present our project as it's basically a testing ground as well. So people can bring their ideas there to implement and experiment with. And that's a great way to, I think, drive feedback both into Gaia X as well as IDS. So, really being able to get some implementation experience as well.
Great, thank you. Angelo, how about your True Connector? Will it also be Gaia X compliant, or are you planning something into that direction?
Yeah, I mean, we're still, I would say, struggling a bit to understand which are somehow the mains that will be deployed by the end of the year in terms of operating the Gaia X ecosystem. On the other side, as you know, within Fiverr, we are also strongly, I would say, a partnership with Fiverr Foundation per se, where also the technical team behind, is really active on trying to make these convergences happening. They are also, as been mentioned, I think, by Ulrich yesterday, also promoting the iFor Trust project, where they're also developing somehow this bridge between the Fiverr technology and the Gaia X ecosystem. So also the connector will be, I would say, one of these ingredients along the pathway. So definitely sure, but to be honest, I would say, to be frank, I don't know which is the timeline for this to be to happen.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Angelo. So no further questions currently on the chat, so I have to think about it. What can I ask you? What's your expectations? I mean, especially maybe back to the Eclipse project, guys. What's your expectation? There is a couple of companies starting now a cool endeavor, and if I have in mind something like 6, 7 to 10 companies, how many companies do you expect to join maybe during this year? Will it be 10, 20, 50, 200? Do you have a rough idea?
Maybe first of all, it's about developers joining our project. So it's the experience of companies behind the developers. That is fine, but we are mainly interested in not companies joining the project, but developers joining and bring the thing forward. And we have different roles, so everybody can contribute. So maybe some people will just contribute one extension or a small pull request, and another will finally join the group of committers. So no, I've no idea of a fixed number. Just can state again, everybody is welcome to join us.
And I think this is really an important statement. It's about people, and every tiny contribution could be important for the success of such an endeavor.
Exactly.
Great
yes.
point. So, I mean, we're the last ones between the lunch break and anything else. Maybe one final question from my side, which you can maybe also take to the lunch break for yourself. Have you tried to connect your two connectors to each other already? I mean, you've been both parts in the integration camp, I'm aware of that. But have you exchanged messages between those two connectors? If not, are you planning to do so?
From my knowledge, indeed, there is not already an integration executed between the two. I don't know if also there is a plan for doing that. Probably Gabriele can add.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, please.
Yeah. Basically, we have started this process, and we are working. I mentioned during the first slide that we are working to integration table. But of course, this is also something that we discussed during the PlugFest Azure, and this is something that we want to achieve for the next PlugFest, of course.
Great, glad to hear that. I mean, that's, I think, why we are here. We heard about this in the first presentations from Boris, to have those data spaces that start, but then really let those data spaces grow together and make data spaces really be able to let the participants roam between different areas and domains and so on and so forth. So, folks, thank you so much for joining. Thank you for presenting. I hope you will stay online on the platform so that we can leave to a breakout room and people can contact you later on via the Eclipse mailing list, for example, via the Fireware community or via the IDSA community to get in contact with all of you, to contribute, to understand and to use. I think that's the important thing about this. So having said this, I think we can close the session for today. Thanks to all of you again. And everyone else, you may also leave to the lunch break. We will meet again at 1:30 for our next sessions. Thank you so much, and see you later, folks. Bye.